Strategy, that's what I need. It's always important to have a plan, to know your next step. Sitting high on a hotel bar stool, I saw three possible options for the evening. I could go outside and call a taxi. It could take me back to my sad house, back to a condo full of memories and broken promises. It was a place that showed off a woman's hand. From new furniture and wall hangings to fresh decor, the home screamed high style. In short, the house smelled like Candace Whitmore. I shuddered when I thought about this option. Another option was to simply return to the private hotel rooms where the informal portion of the evening reception was taking place. I survived the Ajax Corporation's annual Christmas banquet. I shook the right hands, kissed the right asses, and generally made the impression expected of the company's newest and youngest CEO. Most of the senior executives and their spouses have already left, leaving the millennials to celebrate. Several Ajax clients hosted an informal party in some of the business suites. These parties were more than a little over the top. I doubted whether Ajax management knew how much fun was going on upstairs. In fact, I'm sure they did, since they always protected themselves from what happened at these parties. I shook my head, deciding to give up on the wild chaos that was unfolding there. This left me with a third option: sit here in the hotel bar with a glass of Dickels and occupy this bar stool, at least until I fall off it. I knew that at that moment they would send some porter who would take me to my room and leave me there. You can't have guests lying around in plain sight, right? I laughed to myself. I tuned in to this option when I heard a familiar voice behind me. "Sven, what are you doing here, buddy?" I recognized who it was, first by the voice, and then because he is the only one who calls me Sven. It was my best friend of 4 years and colleague, David Nasser. I turned and looked into the darkest brown eyes I had ever seen. I swore they were almost black. They always reminded me of a shark, which was appropriate since he was an account manager in the sales department. I once asked him if his eyes roll when he calls a client. He laughed and said that only when he makes a deal. I was inclined to believe him. Of course, with his olive skin, Middle Eastern features, and natural good looks, they only enhanced his appearance. At least, that's what the ladies in the office said. Dave was almost a full inch taller than me, as he liked to remind me, but he had a very slender build. Black wavy hair, impeccably groomed and clean-shaven, and always dressed in the most stylish European fashions to complete his look for the world. But I know the real Dave. He is a pervert and a womanizer, to put it simply. "Sven, are you still with us?" He laughed, bringing me out of my thoughts. "I think I should introduce myself. I'm Brandon Svensson, Director of Marketing at Ajax Corp. We provide custom containers for shipping and shipping worldwide. If something doesn't fit in a standard FedEx-type box, it will likely be shipped in one of our containers. We operate in a variety of vertical markets, ranging from electronic components to distilleries to adult products. Yes, what a range, isn't it? Oh yeah, why Sven? Well, aside from the last name, my father was Swedish and my mother was French, so I have a muscular, boxy Viking build and brown curly hair and French features. Not too bad, I could do worse. I also preferred Dave to call me Sven rather than his other favorite nickname, D'Artagnan, because of my mustache and goatee. "Damn, dude, what are you doing here?" he said, sitting down next to me at the bar. I raised my glass of rye whiskey and looked at him. "That's a rhetorical question, right?" He smiled from ear to ear. This was his norm. I realized that I had never met anyone who smiled more than my best friend. Damn, he smiled even when he was acting like an ass. "Dude, you need to find a way to move on." "I'm working on it," I lied. "Nonsense," he laughed. "Sitting here and slowly getting drunk is not moving on." "I'm reconsidering my options," I said, smiling sadly. "Oh my God, you're not going to go to the dark side, are you? Damn, I should have sold you my sister's used Prius. You're in love with me, right?" I snorted, forcing the alcohol into my nose. The burn brought tears to my eyes, while my friend laughed his head off. "You would like that," I finally managed to croak. "No," he said with that damn eternal smile. "I tell you all the time, dude, you're not my type. You have extra equipment that doesn't turn me on at all. Ass, I replied. No, I'm pretty sure you've got it, even though you're full of crap most of the time. I was talking about the other side of the coin. So, what are you doing here, brother? I'm developing my strategy. Oh, please, Dave moaned. What did you do when you canceled your own party a week ago? Who the hell cancels their own 30th birthday party? I know you're still in mourning, but damn, man, you gotta find a way to move on. I just looked at the amber liquid in front of me. You know that bridge is burned, right? I know Candace would jump for joy if you wanted to get back with her, but do you really want to go through all that trying to rebuild a trusting, loving relationship with someone like that? I continued to look at my drink, admitting that we both knew the answer to this question. A surprising thing happens when the love of your life betrays you. Your rose-colored glasses fall off. Things you always ignored now become obvious flaws. Yes, I put Candace on something of a pedestal. I think all lovers do this at the beginning of their relationship, even though we know they can't stay there for long. But it is always the cold shower of reality when our loved one not only falls from the pedestal, but also picks up that pedestal and begins to hit us with it, leaving only our bloody hearts and bleeding memories. Besides, Dave laughed, bringing me back from my psychotic musings, I'm sure her family won't be happy to see you two together. And whose fault is it? My best friend smiled sinisterly. Well, I'm pretty sure I won't get a Christmas card from them either. You think? I snorted. He was silent for a minute before he answered. His voice was calm but serious. You know, I already apologized for that. Brandon, Dave, I interrupted. It's okay, and I don't blame you for anything. I know you protected me, had my back. Exactly, he said, his smile returning. And that's what I'm doing now. We need to go upstairs and relax. Missing your birthday party is one thing, but missing Melanie from accounting, exposing her huge breasts is another. We both laughed. Melanie being naked was a spectacle and became a tradition on holidays. There's also the possibility that Sarah might be convinced to give you a lap dance for your birthday. In your dreams, I snorted, only in your twisted dreams. Yes, Dave said, smiling sinisterly as he sat there, clearly imagining a fantasy. Why don't you just ask her out, you pervert? I laughed. You constantly fantasize about her. Are you afraid that she will refuse you? Dude, I'm in sales. I'm used to rejection. No, I'd be more afraid of her agreeing to go with me. I stared at him in obvious confusion. She'll probably hurt me, he laughed, in ways I can only dream of. She will most likely sacrifice you on some black altar to a dark god. Well, he smiled, there's something to it. We both laughed. Listen, man, do what you need to do, Dave said, standing up. However, if you decide to join the world of the living and go up, I guarantee it will be an unforgettable experience. Okay, I'll think about it. Try to think about it before you have another one of these, he said, pointing to my drink. We don't want you to see double. He smiled ominously at me. It was obvious that I was not following his twisted logic. Seeing Melanie's 4 huge breasts can forever scar even the most avid breast lover. Listen, Brandon, he said as he walked away, I'll save you a spot at the top. And dude, stop staring at my ass. His laughter echoed behind him as he left the bar. I found myself laughing along with him. He was a pain in the ass sometimes, but he was a good friend. I'm not sure how I would have gotten through the last few months without his help and his sharp jokes and comments. There is no doubt that the last 3.5 months have been the darkest times of my life. I met Candace 3 years ago. I worked at Ajax for a year, and she recently passed the bar exam and was working at a local law firm. 6 feet 2 inches tall, with a beautiful face, long golden hair, and a slender, athletic body, she easily stood out in any crowd. In fact, she played volleyball at the college level before going to law school. The first time she looked at me with those sea-green eyes and smiled, I was hooked. Besides her attractiveness, Candace Whitmore knows how to walk into a room and dominate it. She's charming but aggressive, Funny but persistent, sexy as hell but smart, and insatiable behind closed doors. Our sex life felt like working out, and there were many times when I felt like I was barely surviving a CrossFit session. I didn't complain, I was usually sore and bruised, but I never complained. We dated for a couple of years before I asked her to marry me. I would have asked her sooner, but to be honest, her family intimidated me. No matter what anyone tells you, when you marry your spouse, you inherit their relationship with their family members. If your spouse has a strained relationship with his family, then this is where you start. If they have a close family, then be prepared for them to be a part of your daily life. Candace's family was very close-knit. What made the situation worse was that the whole family consisted of lawyers. In addition to Candace, her father, older brother, and sister-in-law were also lawyers. The Whitmore family was well known and respected in South Florida. I found Candace's father, Conrad, to be a bit arrogant, but that could be because no father thinks anyone is good enough for his little girl. He was also a well-known defense attorney, so his attitude seemed to go with the job. Rachel, Candace's mother, was a sweetheart and was the only one who welcomed me into the family with open arms. She was also the only one who was not a lawyer. Rachel was a tall beauty, slightly shorter than Candace. She seemed to be the one who kept their family together. Candace's older brother Brad was a real jerk. If Conrad had elite arrogance, Brad was just a condescending bastard. He was a corporate lawyer and was happy to work at his daddy's firm because his colleagues at any other firm would have killed him. To round out the lineup of Whitmore and Associates was Meredith, Brad's wife. A real estate lawyer, she was the perfect addition to the family. Describing Meredith is actually easy. Imagine a 7-foot red Amazon with huge breasts. Now scale that down to a 5-foot flame, add a high ick and the personality of a barracuda, and you have Meredith Whitmore. Undoubtedly, she could easily stay in this family. Even with a family that should be on reality TV, I couldn't imagine my life without Candace, so I proposed. When she agreed, the most memorable summer of my life began. We got engaged in May and, thanks to Meredith, moved into our condo by July. July was also the month I received a promotion. I was on top. Little did I know that by September my world would fall apart. When I accepted the promotion, I knew I would need to work extra hours at the beginning. I didn't plan on needing so many of them. I knew this was bothering Candace a lot, but I couldn't do anything about it for the first few months. There was tension between us as all our dreams melted away like wax on a flame that Labor Day. Candace's family was having a big party on Sunday night. Conrad was planning something, and it was important for the whole family. Unfortunately, we had a major promotional failure on the Friday before the holiday. I was working so hard and fast that I missed something on the blue line. Fortunately, the printer noticed this, but it requires my presence on Saturday to find a workaround. Due to the holidays, it was not possible to change our flights to and from Miami. Candace was furious. She said that she would still fly on Friday, with or without me. I apologized, but also reminded her of the many times her job had caused us to miss dates and events over the past couple of years. We missed a lot of events due to the late nights she spent at work due to some business at her company. Unfortunately, we had the worst argument of our relationship the night she flew away. The next day, I was able to work with our printer and come up with an acceptable solution. It seemed like my professional ass was saved. It also seemed that, with a little luck, my personal life could get better too. I was still able to arrive on time for the Whitmore family party. I boarded an overnight flight to Orlando, my closest possible destination. So as the sun rose over the beautiful state of Florida, I stood at the baggage claim counter, waiting to see if my suitcase would arrive or if I would have to temporarily become a nudist. The odds were still in my favor, even though my luggage might end up in New York or Cuba. My suitcase arrived even though it was on the next flight in 2 hours. I think fate played a trick on me, because if my suitcase had arrived on time, or if I had decided to come back for it later, everything could have been different. 2 hours after my arrival, I was on the road, in a rental car, making the 3-hour drive to Coconut Grove, north of Miami. The Whitmore family lived in a gated community that had access to a private beach. When I arrived, I was greeted by Rachel with a huge hug, Conrad with a firm handshake, and a sneer from Brad. "Finally, you're here," he snorted. "She bit our heads off." Rachel confirmed that Candace was furious. The family sent her to the beach with Meredith to sunbathe, drink cocktails, and relax. They hoped she would be in a better mood for the party that evening. Rachel told me to go get them for lunch. I laughed and said I would be the sacrificial lamb. Maybe now that I'm finally here it will help. At least I hoped it would. I knew I would probably have to apologize a lot, but since it was important to her family, I decided to stick it out. It was a short walk to a small patch of sand that was considered a beach. Although most of it was covered in small patches of grass, it was nice to have private access to the ocean. The community was mostly made up of wealthy older people who didn't frequent the beach often, but there were a few grassy dunes that provided an extra level of privacy if needed. When I didn't immediately see them among half a dozen other people, I suspected they were behind one of the dunes. I smiled to myself as I approached a particularly secluded area and pulled out my cell phone. If Candace and Meredith are there, they're probably sunbathing topless. I laughed to myself, imagining two beautiful women trying to cover themselves. I've seen my future daughter-in-law topless before, and it was pretty. Impressive. I smiled devilishly, feeling my heart beat faster. A tent appeared in my clothes. As I approached the dune, I heard voices. In fact, I heard whispers, moans, and sounds that indicated someone was in the heat of passion. My heart was beating so hard that I thought it would jump out of my chest. I prayed it wasn't Candace, but images of her and Meredith picking up a couple of guys and having sex filled my mind. While I didn't really care if Meredith cheated on Brad, to be honest, I didn't really like either of them. The thought of Candace doing that to me twisted my heart. It's time to decide, fight or flight. I knew I had to see it for myself. I took a deep breath and slowly crept up to the dune. I decided that if there was only one guy there, I would confront them. If there are two or more, I'll just get the evidence and leave. Using my phone to record video, I sneaked up on what I feared would be the end of my relationship with Candace. As I got closer, I realized I was both right and wrong. I was right. What I saw changed my relationship, but I was wrong about almost everything else. My fiancée was pleasuring her daughter-in-law. Apparently, she was doing a good job as Meredith was gasping with pleasure. "Oh God, Candy," Meredith moaned hoarsely. "Yes, yes, that's right. Oh fuck, oh fuck." When she finally came to her senses after the sexual wave, she was laughing. Candace slowly moved up her body until she began to gently kiss Meredith's breasts. "Oh damn, that was good," Meredith whispered hoarsely. "Baby, no one does it better than you." Then the woman I planned to spend my entire life with, the love of my life, looked into her sister-in-law's eyes and giggled like a little girl. To be honest, I was shocked that they didn't notice me. Although they were immersed in their passion, I thought they would hear my heart breaking. I heard it. Somehow I was able to breathe again and slowly retreated from the oncoming nightmare. I'm not sure how I made it home, but before I knew it, I was face to face with my future mother-in-law. Concern was written all over her face. "Brandon, honey, what happened?" she said, bringing me out of the fog. "Where are the girls?" "On the beach," I croaked, emotions starting to rise. "They will come soon." Rachel looked into my eyes, which were beginning to fill with tears. "Sorry," I said quietly. "I need to leave." "Make sure you get back in time to get ready for the party, son," Conrad's voice said from behind me. I turned and looked at him. I saw his expression change from stern, worried to confused, worried. "I think this would be a very bad idea, sir. You need family there tonight. Please tell Candace I'll talk to her later. I'm sorry I had to leave." I broke out of their house before they could bombard me with questions. In fact, I was an hour on the road to Orlando before my phone started vibrating. I had already found out that I wouldn't be able to fly home from Orlando, but I booked a flight from Tampa. I had to wait for several hours, but still managed to get home. After the third ring, I decided to answer. "Hello?" I said coldly. "Brandon?" Candace asked calmly. "Where are you, my dear?" "Driving home." I heard her voice tremble slightly. "But why? You know Daddy needs the whole family here tonight." "Candace, I think we both know that after what I saw, I will not be joining your family." "Honey, I don't understand. I'm not sure what you think you saw or heard, but—" "Candace, stop it," I said sharply. I must admit, she did not deviate from the first rule of a lawyer: deny, deny, deny. "Brandon, we need to sit down and talk about what you thought you saw or heard." "Well, Candy, what I saw was my ex-fiancée with her ass in the air, pleasuring her sister-in-law. So tell me, baby, have you gotten all that red hair out of your teeth?" I heard a loud sigh. "Honey, please," she said quietly, her voice beginning to break. "Please talk to me before you do anything." "Wow, I'm sure I could ask you the same thing, right?" I replied sarcastically. "Please, Candace," I continued mockingly. "Baby, I love you so much. Please talk to me before you do something stupid." She had no answer other than a muffled sob. "Looks like neither of us are getting what we want, is it?" I growled. "Go back to your family, Candace. Start thinking about how you can get out of this situation so you don't lose more than you already have." "No, it's not what you think," she cried. "It was easy." I hung up before I heard another denial. While I was driving, my phone kept vibrating until I turned it off. When I got to Tampa, I turned on my phone and saw 19 missed calls. 11 were from Candace, 4 from Meredith, 1 from Rachel, and 3 from Conrad. As I looked at my phone, it vibrated again. Without thinking, I answered. "Brandon," came the clearly irritated voice of Candace's father. "Yes, sir," I answered calmly. "What the hell happened?" "Candace is sitting locked in her old room crying. She hasn't done that since she was in high school. What did you tell her?" "Sorry, Mr. Whitmore, but I told her there won't be a wedding." "Will not be?" he shouted. "Damn it, why?" "Sorry, sir, but Candace has to say this." Conrad was silent for a moment before he switched from father mode to lawyer mode. "Son, don't do anything we'll all regret. I'm sure we can sit down and talk it out." "I doubt it, sir. Your daughter has already done a very stupid thing. Look, Mr. Whitmore, I have a flight to catch, so I have to hang up." "Flight? What flight?" "I'm flying home tonight." "Tonight?" he shouted. "Damn it, what happened there?" "I'm sorry, sir, but even if I tell you, you won't believe me without proof. Please tell Candace that we will work things out when she returns. Mr. Whitmore, I sincerely hope that tonight goes better for your family than tonight. The day has passed for me. Goodbye, sir." While waiting for my flight, I checked my voicemails. Candace tried every possible way to get me to call her back. Questions, demands, persuasion, and, finally, crying. When I returned to our condominium, I felt an overwhelming urge to get drunk. Fearing that my common sense was already failing me, I called Dave. He came and picked me up and looked after me while I drank myself into oblivion. I told him everything that happened. I'm sure I did this 3 or 4 times during the evening, between declarations of love and the fact that he is my best friend. Yes, I'm a sentimental drunk. I also remember showing him the video several times. The next morning, well, around lunchtime, I woke up and began to prepare for life without Candace. The only problem was that I couldn't see life without her. This began a 3-month descent into depression. Of course, my wonderful journey into hell was punctuated by visits and calls from members of the Whitmore family. The first visit was, of course, to Candace. She came home Monday night to an empty condo since I had temporarily moved in with Dave. Her call when she found the place empty made it clear that she was more than a little upset. I agreed to come to the condominium and meet her the next evening. When I arrived, she tried her best. Dinner, wine, candles. She even wore a sexy dress. There's no doubt she looked incredible. However, my greeting immediately stopped all her attempts to win me back with sex. "Candace, you shouldn't have. I said as I walked into the condo and saw everything she had done. Honey, I needed to start showing you how sorry I am. No, Candace, I interrupted. I meant you shouldn't because it won't work. We're done, period. This is bullshit, Brandon, and you know it. Yes, I was angry and I made a mistake. A huge mistake. But I love you and you love me, so we'll find a way to work through this. Are you still saying it was just one time? She looked away for a moment. Speaking of bullshit, we both know that's not true. Right, baby? I saw her turn pale before she went on the attack again. Brandon, I'm not entirely sure what you thought you saw, but it's not what you think. Is it true? I said mockingly. Do you want to see the video I made? Her body froze like a deer in headlights before she let out a sigh and collapsed into her chair. Oh God, Brandon, no. Oh yes, it's not very long, but it's very educational. Candace sat shaking her head. Please, Brandon, she sobbed, not daring to look at me. Please. My own eyes began to fill with tears as I watched the girl I loved squirm on her end. No, I said quietly. We're done. We've only been engaged for 4 months, and you're already cheating on me. The fact that it was with another woman and your sister-in-law is something I still can't get over. I'll let you decide what to do with the condo. Thanks to Meredith. Damn, this is funny. Thanks to Meredith, our relationship is over, but she really got us a good deal on that condo. The way she arranged it makes living here cheaper than renting an apartment half the size. Since neither of us has much money invested, it will be easy for one of us to buy the other out. I don't want us to break up, she said quietly. I'm sorry, Brandon. It was just a mistake. No, I said coldly. I don't believe that. A mistake would be a one-time, unplanned event. I don't think you planned it, but it certainly didn't take long for it to happen when you got there. I think the opportunity presented itself and you jumped at it, and I certainly don't believe it was a one-time thing. Candace sat sobbing, staring at the floor. Just let me know what you decide about the condo, I said, turning to leave. Brandon, please don't do this to us, she said, wiping away tears. I love you. I looked at her and bit my lip. As I looked at her, tears began to flow, and I realized that I needed to leave quickly. I highly doubt it, Candace, I said, choking up. You did this to us, and if that's your definition of love, I definitely don't want that. I quickly left, closing the door as she called my name. It was unsettling to step into the future without her. I always planned to grow old with her, share ups and downs, but always be together. Now I was alone. A few days later, I moved back to the condo because Candace had moved out. She left me a message that she was coming home until we worked things out. I wasn't sure what her next move would be. It didn't take long before I found out. A few days later, I received an enlightening phone call. What is this nonsense I'm hearing about you threatening to release the video? Shouted Conrad Whitmore. I won't let some brat try to destroy my family's name. Mr. Whitmore, I'll bring the police to your house first. Mr. Whitmore. He stopped to catch his breath, and I took advantage. Mr. Whitmore, I said calmly, I never threatened to release anything. I have no intention of trying to humiliate Candace, Meredith, or your family. Meredith, why should this humiliate my sister-in-law? Logical, I thought to myself, once a lawyer, always a lawyer. Sir, what did Candace and Meredith tell you that I saw? You didn't see anything, he began, then calmed down. They told us that you probably overheard Candace talking about her old boyfriend. Candace said she admitted to having sex with him 6 months ago, when you've already met. She said she was very descriptive in her story, and it would be very embarrassing for everyone, including her ex-boyfriend and his family, if this information got out. They were sure that you overheard their conversation and were upset because of it. That's why you called off the wedding. No, sir, I sighed. It's creative, but not what I saw. I sighed again, trying to decide if I wanted to open this Pandora's box. Unfortunately, Candace didn't leave me many options. Sorry, Mr. Whitmore, But what I saw on the beach that day was my ex-fiancée pleasuring her sister-in-law. The phone went silent. For a moment, I wasn't sure he was still on the line, but he was. "It's a lie," he shouted. "This is complete nonsense, and if you told someone this slander, I will sue you for libel. I will make your life hell." I passed out. I assumed he wouldn't believe me without proof, but I hoped he would talk to Candace or Meredith first before attacking me. Probably the best defense is a strong offense. It was not long before the Whitmores began their attack. A few days later, I was called to the legal department of Ajax Corp. They informed me that there had been contact regarding an upcoming libel suit against me. Their questions implied that I was talking to other Ajax employees, particularly Dave. I gave them a short, vague overview of what was going on. I informed them that the breakup involved a potentially awkward situation and that it was an attempt to cover the family's ass. They agreed, but said that I should still contact a lawyer. My lawyer informed me of two other lawsuits involving me. First, it was a preemptive attempt to ban any photographs or videos of the Whitmore family. In addition, the financial structure of our condominium was now in question. He asked about the video, and I gave it to him. He then asked about copies, and I said I didn't have any. He said the case would never go to trial because if it did, the video would be made public to refute the libel, which is what the Whitmores didn't want. To my lawyer's credit, he was straightforward and said that although this case would never go to court, I could be legally prosecuted. He stated that they could drag this out for a long time, and it would mean that my legal fees would continue to accumulate. It's possible, but unlikely, that I would have to renegotiate the terms of the condominium financing, and that could be expensive. There is also a high chance that they will continue to contact Ajax and continue to be a general nuisance. Regardless of fairness or not, they will try to poison my relationship with my own company. I was stunned. I would win all these battles, but to do so, I would have to fight every one of them. It will cost me time and money. When Dave came to see me that evening, I was depressed and angry. I tried to do the right thing, but the smell of my failed relationship followed me. Dave listened while I vented my frustrations, and surprisingly, he didn't have any witty responses. I wallowed in my legal misery for another week before my lawyer called to say it had been canceled. I was both surprised and delighted. Dave and I went and celebrated. With my legal problem behind me, I could focus on my work and try to start forgetting Candace. True, her actions over the past month had made it easier, but I still had deep feelings for her. A week later, these feelings were experienced again. When I received the message, I was wary of returning. Of all the Whitmores, Rachel was the only one I didn't want to meet face to face. Out of respect, I called her back and made an appointment. She was flying in and out on the same day, so I took a half day off and picked her up at the airport. We decided to have a quick lunch and then head back to the condo to talk. Once we were inside the condo, the atmosphere changed from polite, casual conversation to a much darker mood. As we sat with a glass of wine, she cleared her throat. "Thank you, Brandon," she said quietly with a sad smile. "Thank you for making part of this trip enjoyable. I've always enjoyed spending time with you, Rachel. I'm sorry that we probably won't do that again in the future." "No," she sighed sadly, "I think you're right. Let's get to the unpleasant part of my trip, shall we?" I nodded. I felt a pang of regret as I looked at her. She was a very attractive woman, and in her I saw a reflection of what Candace would probably look like in 25 years. She'll probably still be beautiful. "I wanted to let you know that we have withdrawn all legal action against you. I can't officially speak for the entire family, Brandon, but I personally am very sorry that we put you through this." "Thank you, Rachel. It means a lot. I'm disappointed that the rest of the family doesn't share the same sentiment." "Well, after you left that day, everything fell apart when Candace and Meredith returned from the beach. When they found out that you had gone down to the beach and returned so upset that you left, they were very concerned. Your call with Candace caused fireworks. Candace became an emotional bundle of nerves, and Meredith cursed like a sailor. I know Conrad didn't tell anyone, but he planned to announce his entry into the political arena that evening. The drama and chaos of that day caused him to postpone the announcement. I'm sorry things didn't work out the way he hoped. I can honestly say I know how he feels. Yes, she said quietly, I'm sure you know. I don't understand why they attacked me then. I didn't bring this to your family, Rachel. I'm ashamed to say that it was mainly because of Conrad and Candace's relationship. Conrad had always been overly protective of her. When she told her father about the video, he became furious. He took it as a personal attack on her and the family. It was as if you were threatening to deliberately smear us. Then, after he called you, everything changed. He went back to the cold, professional Conrad I had seen countless times before. Then, after that meeting 2 weeks ago. She looked at me as if expecting some kind of reaction. Unfortunately, all she could read was my confusion, since that's exactly what I was feeling. You don't know about the meeting? No, I said, shaking my head. What meeting are we talking about? She looked at me for a few moments, then looked into my eyes. Brandon, do you still have that video you made? No, I left a copy with my lawyer and then deleted the original. And you didn't make any other copies? No, of course not. So you didn't send a representative to meet with Conrad and the others a week and a half ago, she said, holding back a smile. No, I exclaimed. I never told my lawyer to meet with your family. I'm pretty sure it wasn't your lawyer. I'm guessing his last name is Nash or Nashua or something like that. Nasser. Yeah, I think so. Candace didn't say anything, but she seemed to know him. I'm guessing you didn't send him? No, I groaned, fearing what had happened. He is my best friend. Rachel bit back a laugh. I told them that you didn't send it, but no one believed me. Well, except for Brad. Well, thanks. I'm a little surprised that Brad. It's not worth it, she said with disgust. He said he didn't think you were that smart. Sorry. No wonder, I chuckled. Whatever his intention, your friend made an impression. Conrad said he would make a good lawyer, an ambulance driver, but still a lawyer. I couldn't help but chuckle at the thought. Apparently, he showed them a copy of your video. It made a big impression. Instead of focusing on you as the bad guy, my family was forced to look at themselves. It's been very tense in our house ever since. I'm sorry, Rachel. I should have assumed he'd keep the copy for himself when I showed it to him. I promise you, I didn't give him a copy. It's okay, Brandon. I never saw the video. Unfortunately, I heard a few things about it. I watched her get ready. This is true, she said quietly. Did you actually catch Candace and Meredith having sex with each other? I'm afraid so, I said softly. And that's what's on the video. I nodded. She lowered her head and held back a sob. Instinctively, I stood up and sat next to her, hugging her. She pressed herself against me, her face and hands on my chest as I supported her. For a moment, I held Candace again, comforting the woman I loved. Without thinking, I whispered that everything would be fine and began to gently stroke her back. I gently ran my nails along her shoulder blades and upper spine for a few seconds until I heard muffled laughter. I leaned back and saw tears in Rachel's eyes, but also a knowing smile. I thought it must have come from you, she chuckled. I assume you give a great back massage? I felt myself blush. Sorry, I wasn't thinking. It was something I did when Candace couldn't sleep at night. Please don't apologize. I brought it up because that's what she's asked me to do almost every night since you left. I looked down, trying to organize my thoughts. You know she's torn about what she did to you, what she did to herself. She knows you're a wonderful person and that you'd be a great husband and father, but I doubt she realizes how much you really are. Special. I don't know what she would do if she ever realized this. As a mother, I hope she never understands this, because such a loss could really damage her psyche. Brandon, I'm so sorry that my daughter treated you this way. I'm sorry that my entire family treated you so badly. Did you know that Candace is planning to move back to Florida permanently? I shook my head. Well, she plans to sign this condominium over to you. She has very little money invested. You, of course, will have to take over the payments. Okay, I said wearily. Rachel saw my skepticism. She's trying, Brandon. She's trying to show how sorry she is for ruining everything. But not enough to admit what she did, right? No, I understand how disappointing this must be, but Brandon, there are other considerations. My understanding is that while the video hints at other cases, there is reasonable doubt. I was about to answer, but she interrupted me. Brandon, like I said, I've never seen the video, but I know that reasonable doubt is the only thing stopping Brad from divorcing Meredith. If either of them admits to more than a one-time mistake, it could cost her brother dearly in his marriage. There's one more thing Candace has to consider. Would her confession matter? What? Are you saying that the truth doesn't matter? She shook her head. No, but I want you to answer one question honestly. Even if she admitted everything you suspect and was truly remorseful for her actions, would you consider taking her back? Please answer honestly, Brandon. I knew my answer. I thought about this on the flight home from Florida that day. Well, I only thought about it briefly. No, I admitted, I don't think I could even then. I know, she smiled sadly and nodded in understanding. Unfortunately, Candace knows it too, although I doubt she'll admit it. She knows she loves you and that she ruined everything. But she didn't realize that what she wants doesn't matter anymore because you gave up on yours. Relationships. I have no doubt that she still plans to meet you and try to win you back. If you can say one thing about my daughter, it is that she is persistent. I knew she was right, I just didn't realize how stubborn Candace could be. After I dropped Rachel off at the airport, I called Dave. My greeting probably let him know that I was angry. "You son of a bitch," I shouted. "Yes, I'm a son of a bitch," he said, trying to relieve my irritation. So why am I the son of a bitch this time?" "You dumbass, I never told you to fly to Florida and meet the Whitmores." Hey, I've never blackmailed anyone." "You mean you didn't go to Florida and meet the Whitmores?" "No, I did it. I'm saying I didn't blackmail them." I was stunned. More importantly, I was silent. Dave took advantage of this. "Listen, Sven," he laughed evilly. "All I did was show them the video. Well, and told them that I was doing my best to secure other copies that I knew were out there. I told them I knew of at least 2, but there were probably more. It wouldn't stay a secret forever, but I thought I could give them at least a year before they had to explain it. We'll give them enough time to come up with whatever theory they need to control the damage." "And what did you want in exchange, Dave?" I said, trying to make sense of everything. "Funny, that's what Dad asked too. Is it a coincidence? I don't think so. I told them I'd do it for free as a favor to you. However, I would appreciate some goodwill in seeing these fake lawsuits disappear. And voila, look what happened." I could hear him smile through the phone. He was so pleased with himself that it was difficult for me to control my anger. "Dude, I didn't tell you to do that." "And you never would. Dude, you were always so obsessed with Candace's mother that you would never do anything to hurt her. Let's be honest, if she were 20 years younger and free, you would have fallen in love with her instead of Candace. I've always seen a lot of her mother in Candace. I wish Candace took more from her mother than her father." We were silent for some time. "You know, the one you stole from my phone?" "Yeah, about that," Dave sighed. "Look, Sven, I'm sorry, but damn, these two are so hot, and this was so hot. How many copies are there?" "Only the one that your adv Hasakata and my personal copy. I'd tell you to erase it, but you'd lie and say you've already done it." "Yeah, you're probably right," he laughed. "Look, dude, think of this as compensation for my tickets and time. It's not going anywhere except my personal collection. Well, that is, unless we want it leaked in a year or so." "No," I said calmly, "just make sure it never sees the light of day. And Dave?" "Yeah, dude, thank you." I thought my ordeal was over when I returned home for Thanksgiving. I was wrong. When I arrived at my parents' farm in Indiana, I knew something was wrong. I looked forward to meeting my three older brothers and their families, but I immediately noticed tension in my relationship with my parents. On Thanksgiving Day, Candace showed up for dinner. Of course, she was invited by my mother. They said it was an early Christmas present for me. I asked what kind of return this gift had. It's probably partly my fault for not telling my parents all the terrible details of our breakup. All I said was that Candace cheated on me and the wedding was canceled. It was stupid of me to tell them that we hadn't spoken in person or on the phone since she got back after Labor Day. I also made the mistake of telling my mom that I still loved her despite our breakup. I understood that they were doing what they thought was best for me, but I also made it clear that I did not want to see or speak to my ex-fiancée ever again. Her appearance here was a betrayal of my trust in my parents. This was something that needed to be dealt with later. These thoughts were running through my head when Candace arrived. She was met by my parents and greeted me. Her eyes begged me to take her. I turned my back to her and continued talking to one of my brothers. A few minutes later, I was surrounded by my parents. "That was rude," my mother began. "We didn't raise you like that, son," my father added. "This is our house." "Yes, that's true," I interrupted. "And if you want me to leave, just let me know." They didn't say anything and I left. Thanksgiving dinner was interesting. I just acted like Candace didn't exist, ignoring any attempts she made to start a conversation. I think my parents now understood that the situation was fragile, but unfortunately my older brother did not. He decided to rebuke me mid-meal after I ignored Candace for the 10th time. "Brother," he said, "that's just rude." Yes, this seemed familiar to me too. I probably should have smiled and kept quiet, but I was more than a little annoyed that my Thanksgiving with my family was ruined. "No," I said contemptuously, "it was rude to invite my ex-fiancée to a family gathering without any warning. To be fair, they should invite all my ex-girlfriends and maybe even my ex-wife to the next family reunion." I saw my older brother close his eyes and lower his head, while his wife looked like she was about to hit someone. I noticed that both my other brothers turned pale and suddenly found their plates very, very interesting. Candace stood up, excused herself, and went into the kitchen. My parents looked at me reproachfully, and I answered them with the same look. I seriously thought about leaving, but I already did that in Coconut Grove. There I tried to respect her family, but it was my family. I excused myself and followed Candace into the kitchen. When I got there, she was wiping her eyes, clearly crying. To my surprise, I didn't feel as much regret as I expected. "What are you doing here, Candace? Your parents invited me. You shouldn't have accepted the invitation." "Well, it's better here than with my family. Even with your cold shoulder, it's still better than the atmosphere at the Whitmore house this holiday." "And whose fault is it?" I grinned. "Oh, believe me," she said sadly, "both Meredith and I will reap the consequences of that day." You still only admit things that can be proven, right? And you wonder why I don't trust you. Sorry, Brandon. I know it seems like it, but with what's going on in my family right now, I'm sorry. I do not know what to say. Well, lawyer, what if you speculated hypothetically? How many times would you assume that my ex-fiancée cheated on me? Just once, and it's not hypothetical. You have to believe it. You must be joking. I don't believe a single word that comes out of your mouth." She lowered her head and held back a sob. "I understand that," she said quietly, "but it's true. And it's true that I love you." "It's a strange way to show it," I chuckled. "I know. I would have a hard time believing it too if the roles were reversed." "How many times, Candace?" I asked coldly. "Hypothetically, 4. 3 times before we became exclusive." "Was she the only one?" "No. There were a few in college and law school, and one more when I started dating you. I didn't know you were bi. You should have told me. I didn't mean to scare you. I knew I had found the man I wanted to spend my life with, and I was afraid that you wouldn't accept it. Well, to be honest, it wouldn't bother me if it was in the past, like your ex-boyfriends. However, the fact that you helped your sister-in-law cheat on your brother, Yeah, I wouldn't take it well. She was silent, looking at me. Even with her eyes red from crying, she was still beautiful. I fought the instinct to go up to her and hug her. Damn it, Candace. He's your brother. I know he's an asshole, but even he doesn't deserve it. I know, she sobbed. I can't believe he's using reasonable doubt to hold on to his marriage. Brad doesn't strike me as the forgiving type. Well, now their marriage is hanging on by a thread, although I doubt it will last. And why is this? Are you and Meredith going to move in together? She winced and began to cry again. No, I've only been with Meredith a couple of times. It was just sexual attraction, nothing more. Even if Brad and Meredith get divorced, Meredith and I will never be a couple. She paused, waiting for my comment. I abstained. No, she continued, I suspect that if my brother isn't already cheating, he will start soon. Once this is discovered, they will either tear each other apart or decide to have an open marriage. Honestly, I don't know how this will end. Well, we can say that all is well that ends well. Not really, Candace snorted. I know that Dad is doing everything to keep everyone from each other's throats. Although I never had a good relationship with my brother, what I have now is caustic poison. I have no doubt that he would gladly hurt me now in any way. Can you blame him? No, she said quietly. I betrayed him just like I betrayed you. Brad is definitely no saint, but I have no excuses for what I did to him. I'm trying to find a way to make peace with him, but I doubt it will ever happen. We sat and looked at each other. There's still a lot left to say, but I doubt we knew how to start. I'm also trying to win back the heart of the man I love, she said, gently trying to break the uncomfortable silence. That will never happen, I answered coldly. It could if he gave me a chance. Is it true? I grinned. Tell me then, how are you going to restore trust in the relationship? After all, you lied to me from the very beginning. Then you cheated on me when we were only engaged for 4 months. You cheated to your brother, so obviously family means nothing to you. Damn it, Candace, how are you ever going to rebuild trust if there's nothing to build on? I began to raise my voice as the anger and pain began to come out within me. In time, I will be able to earn your trust, she begged. And why should I give you time? What do I get out of this, lawyer? Years of suspecting that my girlfriend was cheating on me every time I turned my back. Let's be honest, I don't trust you right now. Damn it, Candace. Now I can't trust you alone with any man or woman. And even worse, I can't trust you alone with your family members. I mean, what's going to stop you if some cousin, uncle, or aunt is curious? And what was your reason for cheating on me? Oh, that's right. Now I was already screaming. That's because little Candace didn't get what she wanted. So what happens next time you don't get yours? Are you just going to have sex with the mailman? Damn it, Candace. What? Are you 13 years old? Candace was quietly sobbing when my parents intervened. Brandon, enough, my father barked. No, that's not all. Why is she here, Dad? Mom, what did she tell you to convince you to betray my trust and bring her here to ruin our family holiday? I saw my mother flinch at my words, and my father looked at me with rage. She said, Mom began stuttering, she said she just needed to apologize to you and tell you how much she loved you. Oh, Brandon, we see how hurt you are and how much you still love her. We were. No, I interrupted. It's all about what she wants. She wants to apologize. She wants to ambush me in front of my family. She wants forgiveness. She wants us to get back together. Nobody thinks about what I want. At almost 30 years old, I can make my own decisions. And my decision was to stay away from her and not contact her. But apparently my parents thought differently. Of course, my ex-fiancé manipulated them to get what she wants again. But let's be honest, she's good at twisting the truth to get what she wants. The real reason I broke off the engagement is... No, Brandon, please, Candace begged. The reason I broke off the engagement is because I caught my fiancé having sex with her sister-in-law. My mother gasped, and I saw my father's face turn pale. So basically, Mom and Dad, you invited an incestuous, bisexual, cheating bitch to Thanksgiving dinner so she could try to manipulate your son into giving her a second chance to break his heart again. Thank you very much. Candace ran out of the kitchen sobbing. She grabbed her purse and coat before slamming the door. My parents followed me as I went to pack my things. My brothers and their families were still sitting at the table, silently watching us. Brandon, Mom's voice trembled. I think it's time for me to leave too. It was great. Let's do it again very soon. Son, we're sorry, the father said calmly. Me too, I replied. Will we see you at Christmas? Mom asked, with tears in her eyes. No, I'm sure that I will have a deadline for submitting my work. Besides, it's too early. I need time. I'll call back later. So ended my Norman Rockwell Thanksgiving, thank goodness. So, what will it be, Sven? A low, seductive voice came from behind the bar. I looked at the barmaid's pretty face and smiled. She looked about 40 years old. She was attractive, but it was obvious that she had once been a dazzling beauty. She had that worn-out look, like a Vegas showgirl who had been dancing 10 years past her prime. I took a quick look at her name tag. Well, Betty, what do you suggest? I joked. She flashed a smile that must have once broken 100 men's hearts. Well, Romeo, she laughed, my name is Becca. I looked at the badge and smiled. Sorry, I tried not to stare at your chest. She snorted with laughter. Come on. You've been staring at my chest and ass for an hour now. I just smiled. Caught. Relax, she laughed. It's part of the job. Same thing with pickups. So does this mean no? I said, feigning innocence. I think that would be a very bad idea, she laughed. My girlfriend is unlikely to be happy. I winced, remembering Candace and Meredith. Becky's smile immediately disappeared. Believe me, she said coldly, it's not contagious. No, I answered sadly. That's not the point. This. I sighed heavily. I just lost my fiancé to another woman. I'm sorry, Becca said quietly. Sometimes it takes time to understand who we are and what we want. Probably, I answered. I found them together. Crap. Did she cheat on you? I nodded. She looked at me with an expression full of pity. This really sucks. I'm sorry. Cheaters are pieces of shit, no matter who they're in bed with. So tell me what you really think, Becca, I chuckled. Well, since you asked, she said, smiling. By the way, I said, holding out my hand. Brandon. She shook my hand and I held it for a few seconds. Rebecca, she said, smiling, and now you can let go of my hand. But it was the only way to touch such a beautiful woman without her calling the hotel security. Oh my God, you're so full of shit, she laughed, wiping down the counter. Are you by any chance involved in sales or advertising? Marketing. The same. Becca noticed that someone's glass was empty and went to him. A few minutes later, she returned. Relax, Brandon, you'll get through this. I'm sorry about your girlfriend. This happened to me many years ago. It was a difficult time in my life. It seems you survived it. Yes, it was a real struggle, but in the end, I was tired of living in the mess that she left in my life. It took time, but I moved on. Trust me, she said, smiling at me. You are a handsome young guy, in good shape, with a good job and a sense of humor. You will survive. But not cute enough to take home. She laughed loudly. I don't want to ruin your illusions, honey, but I'd rather take your friend for the night. Thanks, Becca. You definitely gave me a boost of self-esteem for the evening, I replied sarcastically. She giggled. The reason is simple. You are dangerous, but he is not. Okay, I said, resting my elbows on the table and resting my chin on my hands. Now you have my full attention. She smiled and looked over her shoulder to make sure her other clients were okay. When she was sure enough, she turned to me again and grinned. Fine. Your friend, Dave? I nodded. Well, it's basically like a heat-homing head, looking for something warm and wet on a woman's body. I chuckled and nodded. There's more truth in this than she probably realizes, I thought to myself. Hell, I'm sure if I took him home so my girlfriend and I could play for the night, we wouldn't even be counted as notches in his belt. He probably stopped doing this a long time ago. Now it's all about hunting and sex for him. It's just a fixation for next time. My girlfriend and I could play with him without any strings attached, because he would disappear before the sun touched his ass. So, like I said, it's safe. And you, she sighed, shaking her head, you're a completely different matter. You're the kind of guy a girl could fall in love with. While you wouldn't force me or my girlfriend to switch sides, you would be a threat to complicate our relationship more than it already is. Even if you didn't want it, attachments could appear. So, like I said, dangerous. Why do I feel like I just got rejected? I said quietly with a small smile. It was done gently, but still, they rejected it. Becca laughed. Hold on, little camper. There is definitely a woman in the world waiting for a catch like you. And when you find her, hold on to her as tightly as I'm sure she will hold on to you. Just take your time. Go and live a little until you find her. I was sure there was a story hidden in her words, but she didn't seem to want to go there, so I let it go. Wisdom of the bartender, I finally answered. Certainly, and don't forget to tip generously when you decide to move on with your life. She laughed, leaving to serve another client. Yes, I thought, it's time to move on, but where to start? I signed my bar tab to the room number and left a generous tip for a certain bartender. Smiling to myself, I left the hotel. I heard the party before I even got off the elevator. Down the hall, I saw several people milling around in front of the doors of the rooms that had been turned into a party area. When I entered, the music washed over me like a wave, and I tried to get lost in the crowd of people. I succeeded for a few minutes until I heard Dave's voice over the music. Here he is, he shouted. Here's the birthday boy. I groaned and vowed to find a way to make Dave pay for this. For the next 15 minutes, I accepted congratulations, handshakes, and friendly pats on the back. I also received a few birthday kisses, which eased my anger towards my best friend. Just when I thought I had passed through the rows of congratulations, the music stopped. Sven, Dave called again. Dude, come here. Like a man going to execution, I slowly approached my best friend and future victim. Bro, come here, he slurred his tongue slightly, which indicated that he had already drunk quite a bit before I arrived. Come and sit down. We have a couple of birthday gifts for you. The only thought running through my head was that Dave's death would be very slow and very painful. As I sat down on the chair, there was laughter behind me, and suddenly Melanie Schieffer appeared in front of me. All 5 feet 3 inches and 230 pounds of her. From her round smiling face surrounded by big red curls to her big bubble butt, Melanie was easy to spot. But even with her snowman-like figure, it was impossible not to notice her 40E breasts. They jumped up and down as if living their own lives, matching her laughter and clapping hands like a little girl. Just as I was about to say something to prevent what I knew was going to happen, she deftly lifted her cardigan. Surprise! She squealed and began to rub her huge, incredibly soft breasts against my face. Wow, I said loudly, trying to maintain at least a drop of dignity. What a pleasant surprise, or rather, 2 pleasant surprises. The crowd howled and cheered. Melanie giggled and gave me a huge kiss before tucking her 2 personal watermelons back under her cardigan. When she left, I gave Dave a death glare and saw him flinch. But being a salesman, he did not give up. He grinned and nodded to someone, and the music started playing again. This time, instead of a techno beat, it had a distinctly slow, smoky sound. My breathing stopped when I saw Sarah Jones appear in the center of the circle. Sarah worked in sales with Dave and was a very attractive woman. First of all, she was taller than most women, not quite as tall as Candace, but close. She matched my 6-foot height and usually towered over me in her 4-inch boots. Her long, straight, jet black hair resembled a cape that flowed down her long torso. Her oval, pretty face was usually accentuated by dark, blood-red lipstick and even darker eye makeup, giving her a gothic, surreal look. Completing the look were some of the most intense, piercing brown eyes I've ever seen. Like a panther, she circled around her place on the floor, beginning to dance. Her black blouse and striped skirt hugged her athletic figure as she moved and twirled to the music. On her right arm was a black tattoo of a tree with some symbols underneath it. The man's face was in the branches. It was believed that this was her first lover, whom she sacrificed and buried under an old oak tree on the eve of the summer solstice. Of course, it was just a rumor. What was certain was that she was a force to be reckoned with, both visually and personally. Dave theorized that her aggressive personality and appearance caused the customer to order more than he originally planned on more than one occasion. As she moved slowly to the music, it was obvious that she was as graceful as a panther. When her eyes fell on me, I could have sworn I felt her hot breath on my neck, playing with me before she lunged. She kept her eyes on me as she slowly unzipped her skirt and let it fall to the floor. I noticed her evil smile as my eyes trailed down the length of her long, muscular legs, noting her black strappy stilettos with ribbons wrapping around her ankles and ending in small bows above her calves. With a sharp kick, her skirt flew towards Dave, and I heard him groan as he caught it. As she slowly turned around, it became clear that her tiny thong was highlighting her tight little ass. Although her eyes never left mine, she teasingly unbuttoned her blouse and tossed it back to Dave. Her black-and-he cute bra hugged and exposed her large breasts. She swayed exotically to the music, and I felt myself slowly becoming hypnotized by this dark warrior princess. Before I had fully fallen under her spell, my attention was diverted by the appearance of a second person in the circle. Her name was Debbie Smith, and she was an account manager. She was also Sarah's longtime friend, breaking up and getting back together. In the office, they were called Alias, Smith, and Jones. Although both could attract the attention of any man, they were very different creatures. While Sarah had a dark, exotic look, Debbie seemed like sunshine. With Sarah, there was a sense of danger, while Debbie filled the person with warmth and joy. Even their voices competed for attention. Sarah's husky, seductive voice versus Debbie's high, girly voice. I laughed to myself, thinking about those guys who first met Debbie and mistook her small stature and girly voice for innocence. She might look like an angel, but sometimes she had the personality of a college student on spring break. At such moments, it seemed that she was desperately trying to fit as much fun, sun, and debauchery into a short time. Debbie quickly stripped down to Sarah's clothing, to the delight of the audience. With her gray skirt and pink blouse thrown to the side, she was now dancing in a lacy pink bra and a gray and pink thong. When she turned her back, I choked. The thong started at her waist and went down, disappearing between two full, round buttocks. I had to stop myself from trying to physically figure out where that tiny piece of tissue had gone. Watching these two women dance, it was impossible not to notice the difference between them. With Sarah, it was a night of flirting with a dark side of sex, but with Debbie, it was all about fun and games. It was a choice between night and day. So who won my attention? It was easy, although I didn't show it right away because I was getting the attention of both of these beauties. As Sarah swayed to the music like a snake to a charmer's flute, Debbie twirled and jumped, simply enjoying being the center of attention. Often Sarah would look at her, then lick her lips invitingly, and Debbie would blow her a kiss. When Sarah's back was turned, Debbie walked over and unclasped her bra. Sarah turned around and barely caught her bra before it fell, exposing her large breasts to the crowd. Debbie laughed and walked away as the crowd sighed in disappointment at Sarah's quick reflexes. Sarah paused for a moment and then let her satin black bra fall to the floor. The crowd immediately began to applaud. The two women danced around the circle, as if in a swordsman's duel. With a sharp lunge, Sarah found herself in front of Debbie. Debbie turned to me, and I saw a sparkle in her eyes. She slowly walked towards me until she was right in front of me, blocking any view of Sarah. I was fascinated until I heard the crowd cheer and Debbie stepped aside, turning to look at what was happening behind her. There was Sarah, bent over and with her legs straight, slowly removing the tiny thong from her muscular legs. Her cold look at Debbie made it clear to everyone that she didn't like to lose. But then an evil smile spread across her face. "Okay, that's it," said Harold Bingham, our vice president of engineering, in a loud voice. That's it. The show is over. His bass voice surprised everyone, including Sarah, as it brought her out of her trance. But it also caused Debbie to take a step back, right into my lap. Instinctively, I reached out my hands to catch her. I felt the incredible warmth of her ass as she merged with me. I know these parties can get a little wild, Mr. Bingham continued, but live sex shows are a little over the top, even for our hosts. The crowd sighed in disappointment. What about dead sex shows? Someone shouted from the back of the room, to everyone's amusement. Well, said the imperturbable Mr. Bingham, I'm sure your wife has complained to you about this many times, but the show is over for today. The crowd laughed and applauded. Now I want to thank Miss Smith and Miss Jones for this wonderful show, but I ask both of you to please put on your clothes. If only Mr. Svensson could get his hands off Miss Smith's chest. The room exploded with whistles and screams. Lasami. It was then that I fully realized that when Debbie fell into my lap, I reached out and grabbed the first thing I could find. It was her magnificent breasts, these incredibly soft, warm, delicious breasts. Damn, I quickly let her go. Debbie stood up, laughing, and went to get her clothes. I spent the next few minutes avoiding people, hoping no one would notice my problem. Unfortunately, I was unlucky. Or maybe, on the contrary, lucky. Said a quiet voice behind me. Is it me, or are you just happy to see me? I turned around and looked down into her cold blue eyes. Debbie looked like she was about to burst into laughter. Her smile seemed to light up the entire room. I said, checking that not all the blood had returned to the head and shoulders. I'm very sure it's you. Prove it, she laughed. I couldn't help but laugh with her. Listen, she purred, hugging my arm and pressing her now clothed breasts against my chest. Let's go to your room and I'll show you the right way to clean this so there won't be any stains left. I sighed. I was sure she was married and I had a strict rule never to get involved with married women. And after what Candace did, this rule became even more firmly established. Debbie, I finally whispered, I thought you were married. I can't believe I'm saying this, but I don't get involved with married women, no matter how much I want it. Okay, now I was also questioning my sanity. She smiled and pulled my face towards hers, kissing me on the cheek. Her face then frowned for a moment before a grin appeared on her beautiful face. Well, my marital status is now in question. I recently found out that that idiot I call my husband is cheating on me. I don't know if I'll kick him out, stay with him until I find a replacement, or take the risk and try to save the marriage. But I know one thing. From now on, she purred, her grin slowly turning into an evil smile. The rules have fucking changed. She looked into my eyes, waiting for my decision. So, do you think you know a good way to clean this stain? I said, smiling warmly. A smile from ear to ear appeared on her beautiful face. Guaranteed, she laughed. Just let me pack some things. She was only gone for a couple of minutes before she returned carrying a small package. She hugged mine with her free hand. She looked at me and her eyes sparkled mischievously. Lead the way, hot guy, she purred. I almost tripped while rushing to the elevator. When we entered the room, Debbie placed her bag on the table and then led me to one of the chairs. Looking into my eyes, she growled and ordered me to take off my clothes. I didn't hesitate. When I was left in only my shorts, she told me to give her my pants. She carried them to the closet and pulled out a dry cleaning bag. Throwing them at him, she opened the door and hung the bag outside the room. After closing the door, she turned around and looked at me, smiling. Here, she laughed, this should help. I said, smiling, what if I need them before the morning? Debbie slid back towards me. We won't need it, she said, pulling down my panties. She gave me a wolfish grin, then turned to the bag of things she had brought with her. With her back to me, she pulled a few things out of the bag and laid them out. While she did this, I looked at her full, round butt and fought the urge to reach out and explore. When she turned around, I couldn't help but laugh. She had a chocolate cupcake with one candle sandwiched between her breasts. Happy birthday, she giggled. Now make a wish. I leaned over, blew out the candle, and, without using my hands, took a bite of the cupcake. Debbie giggled and, to my surprise, threw the rest of the cupcake into the trash. I lifted her face, leaned forward, and merged my lips with hers. Slowly standing up, I made sure that our kiss did not break. Hugging her warm, soft body, I pulled her towards me. Finally, breaking our kiss, I walked over to the bed and carefully laid her down on it. I looked into her desire-filled eyes and grinned. It's time to unpack my gift. We lay frozen in an embrace. I fought to regain my breathing. When her body calmed down, I heard her sigh contentedly. "Debbie," I whispered. "Say chach," she answered quietly. "Rest." I held this incredible woman in my arms and rested. I couldn't help but rub her back as she snuggled up to me like a kitten. I stroked her hair with one hand and then ran my fingers down her spine until I reached her wonderful ass. Squeezing her, I held her close to me and heard her sigh. Soon we both fell asleep. After a few minutes, I felt her move and opened my eyes. I found myself face to face with her deep blue eyes that danced with satisfaction and desire. She smiled sweetly at me and spoke softly. "Did you like your birthday present?" I chuckled and rolled my eyes. The best birthday present. From her kiss, I knew that our night together had come to an end. When she crawled off me, I felt cold from the loss of her warmth. She sat on the edge of the bed briefly before jumping up. "Damn it," she laughed. "We really did it, didn't we?" She grabbed her things and went to the bathroom. A few minutes later, she came out. She didn't look as fresh as she did at the beginning of the evening, but the smile on her face made her look just as beautiful. "Stay," I said quietly. She looked at me for a few moments. "I can't, handsome," she said with a sad smile. She paused, then her smile lit up her face. "At least I can't this time." As she opened the door to leave, she turned back to me. "Thank you, Brandon," she said in her sweet, girly voice. "It was fun." And now she is gone. Lying there, I stared at the ceiling, collecting my thoughts. As I fell asleep, I wondered if Debbie would ever understand how special her birthday gift was to me. I was woken up by the annoying buzz of my phone at dawn. I looked at the caller ID and saw that it was Dave. "Sven?" I heard his voice calling. "Are you awake?" "No, asshole," I muttered. "I'm still dreaming, and you're just a bad dream." "How about we make it a good dream, a very good dream?" he laughed. "Okay," I said, trying to wake up fully. "I'll meet you for breakfast, and you'll tell me about this great idea you have." "Well," he said, chuckling, "actually, I can't do that right now. I seem to be a little busy." "Did I tell you that you can tell him this?" I heard Sarah's seductive voice in the background. Then I heard a sharp bang and Dave screamed. "Thank you, Sister Sarah," he chuckled. "Can I have some more?" "Damn it, Dave," I laughed. "It's too early for an obscene phone call." "Bro, you should come here. I think I'm in love. And Sven, it's never too early for a nasty phone call. Here," I heard Sarah's voice in the background again. "Give me your phone." "Sven," she said seductively, "I want to taste what that bitch of a friend stole from me last night. So get your sweet ass over here, and let's see if this useless slave you call a friend can satisfy me." I muttered, trying to force my sleepy brain to think. I don't understand English." I quickly disconnected and turned off the phone. Turning over, I laughed. There were several reasons why I didn't go to Dave's hotel room. The first was that I had just come out of my depression over Candace and just wasn't ready for a threesome. Besides, I was sure that I was not ready to enter Dave's world. Lastly, no matter how hot Sarah was, the thought of seeing Dave naked and being disciplined would have sent me to therapy for years. I smiled to myself. I was still young, I had a good job, and was quite attractive. Not a bad match, and someday I will prove it to the right woman. Until then, I could wait. A new day began, and I was finally ready to move on with my life. Subscribe to our channel so that your love doesn't cheat on you, and go ahead and listen to the next story, because this story is nothing compared to the next one. If you're under 18, don't even think. Click to the next one. Click to the next one. Click to the next one. Click to the next one.